you were speaking at great length about all the work you did in solar, and you mentioned the oil crisis in the 70s. I was really happy about. I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to ask you about that. Uh, so you were. I know you were in Arizona that time. You were there from what you said 74 to 82. You said.
73, 74, 74 to 82.
Okay. So, but before that, the crisis, it started in 71.
73 and 74.
That's when it was. Okay, so you were in Phoenix, Flagstaff. You were in that area. What was that like?
Long gas lines,
How long did it take for you to gas up your car?
sometimes half an hour.
Half an hour. So you were wasting gas to get gas.
No, well, you sit in the line, you turn your car off.
Okay,
and
fair enough.
Then you turn your car. Nobody left their car running, believe me.
Okay. Jeez. People complain about the gas prices now. Tell us, what were the gas prices when you were gassing up your car during the crisis? Do you remember?
Maybe about between 25 and 50 cents a gallon, somewhere in there.
And was that considered like really expensive to people? What was it before the crisis?
Well, I remember when I was in college, it was 17
17 cents a gallon for
at
gas.
the nearby gas station, like a Argo, Argo or whatever it was.
Wow. Okay, and how did it work? Were you allowed to go to the gas station anytime you wanted? You had to wait in line, but could you go anytime you wanted?
Pretty much.
Okay, but you had to wait. Okay. Did it ever happen when you'd be waiting in line for gas and then the station would say we're out? Did that ever happen?
Yeah,
Jeez.
that happened too. And going down Highway 5, when they first opened that up, there weren't even enough gas stations, so you would have thought it was gas rationing again, because there were long lines. Very few. See, the highway had to be built before they could really bring in and build gas stations. But
You're talking about Highway 5, or are you talking about California or Arizona?
California.
Okay. Yes.
And there was just a long, long stretch between nothing there. And in order to build gas stations, they needed a freeway to run the big trucks on, but they didn't have a freeway. So the only gas station were ones that were coming in from side freeway street or highways that they could get to with the trucks to
Yep.
build them.
Okay.
So there were only very, very few gas stations between San Francisco and LA.
I never thought of that.
So
Whoa.
it was like 70, again.
Wow. I never thought of that.
It wasn't that there was so much of a gas shortage, it was just some very few gas stations. And you had to go to the restroom, had to wait line an hour for that.
And it was this gas crisis that got you interested in solar?
Well, what happened was we lived in Phoenix at the time. This was my second husband. And he had already bought 40 acres in Kingman, and he wanted to build a place on. And he read about solar, and he was interested in seeing if it was feasible to put solar on there for a solar pump for the well and solar for lights and stuff like that. And so he said, would you go to they had a solar energy commission at Phoenix at the Capitol building. Would you go there and ask them if you can get some information on solar so I can see if I can put it on my property,
Okay.
So I went and talked to them about it. What it needs. They sent me to a professor in Tempe that knew quite a bit about solar energy, and he told me some things and some background, how to get a little information. He said it may or may not be feasible, but he said Kingman does have a lot of sun. So he said, although it's higher than Phoenix, but he said you might be able to. And so next thing I know, I get a call from the head of the Solar Energy Commission. Would I put on an exhibit at the state fair in Sacramento in 2 weeks? I said, well, where do I get the material? 400 square feet. Where do I get the material? He said, well, go talk to this professor again, and he probably send you to a few other people that might have some material or information. I gathered up enough to have a good exhibit.
So even though you're living in Arizona, they wanted you to go all the way to Sacramento.
No, to Tempe, to Arizona State University.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Which
Correct
wasn't
me.
that far.
Okay.
In the meantime,
correct.
so I put on this exhibit. In the meantime, my husband had been transferred to Kingman. He was technician for the State Highway Patrol, took care of their radios and their mountaintop receivers. So he was transferred to Kingman. So anyway, after I put on that exhibit, then they came in and said, would you please use the same material and put on an exhibit for the State Teachers Fair 2 weeks later? So I had to stay with some friends in Phoenix area there. And they were cousins of my husband's or something. Anyway, and so I put that on. So then when I got up to Kingman, where my husband was, people were saying, well, what have you been doing? What kind of work or whatever? I said, oh, I was involved in putting together some solar energy. Solar energy? Would you put on an exhibit for us? Would you put on a fair at the library? Would you come and speak to our club? I mean,
And this big interest in solar was driven by the energy crisis.
Yes.
Everybody was like, we got to do something because
people
they couldn't
were
afford gas.
really interested, and I was like an information specialist because I knew a little more than any of them, you know.
And it all started with your husband asking you
It
to
just
find
went
something
like
out.
this. And then,
Interesting.
so I put on a small fair at the library, and then I started speaking at different clubs, men's clubs and so on, and at the schools. All the schools around wanted to hear about it. I had a daily radio program.
And you were still living in Flagstaff, or was it Kingman?
Kingman.
Okay.
And then the on the board of supervisors of the county there, Mojave County, asked me if I would head a commission on solar energy, you know, for the county.
Okay.
So I found enough people on it that, you know, either had solar or knew a little bit about it. One was an engineer, another one was something else, and so I put together this little commission, you know. So that went on for a while. Well, it was the first county in the country to have a solar energy commission, so I started getting invitations to speak. all over
Mojave
the
County,
country.
Arizona. Mojave County, Arizona.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, here we are fast forwarding to 2025. Do you think that the interest, the industry, the investment in solar energy has kept pace? Do you see people losing interest? Why is that then? Why?
It turned out to be not feasible financially too much for people to do it. And also then later energy became more available and less costly. So that made a difference too.
The end of the crisis, people could go to get their gas again.
Yeah, so they quit even thinking about it then that much.
And I think this is interesting because a lot of people think...
It still costs a lot to put solar energy on your house. It still costs quite a bit.
Okay. It's interesting because you talk about how you're a registered Republican. A lot of people don't think of Republicans as environmentally minded, or, you know, especially like in solar or other industries. Did you find that your advocacy for solar energy put you at odds with local party officials?
No, they were all interested in it, no matter what party.
Oh, okay, got it.
I was active in the Republican club in that area, and then when I went to Flagstaff later, I went to that Republican club. They had a Republican women's club there, and anyway, then that's when the dean of the college came and asked me to teach, and I was teaching accredited classes with only an AA degree. I had to find out how to do everything.
How many years did you teach?
About 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years. How many? So I would presume. Okay.
3 campuses.
3 campuses.
Bullhead and Lake Havasu City and Kingman.
Do you remember your favorite student? Do you have a favorite student? I don't know how the things that work in colleges.
I remember one that was an engineer that I kept calling on him when we talked about solar cooling.
Okay.
He seemed to know a little bit about that. What I didn't know, I asked people.
Okay.
I just kind of bluffed my way through. But anyway, and then they decided to make it a solar energy department for Mojave County. And so I headed a department. I'd never done that before.
You're talking about like a college course department. Is that what you mean? You mean like people talk about like a humanity? Are you talking about at the college, a department, or what do you? Or just for the county itself? Okay.
A department for
Got
the
it.
county.
Okay. Is that still there?
Just like the public works department, or
Is it still there in Mojave County? Oh, okay.
I don't know
Okay.
now, but anyway, so I did that. Well, then that was high profile, so I kept getting invited to speak all over the country on that again. Then. And then the teaching at the schools and speaking all over the place. And I was even asked to run for the state legislature, and I didn't think I was smart enough, so I declined.
Okay.